Today on CCX News, breaking down primary election results. From a close state house primary to an unusual city council election situation in Robbinsdale, we take a closer look. Robbinsdale primary voters may have noticed two names in common in two different categories on their ballot. That was on purpose. Jason Greenberg faced David Durkers in a special election to fill a vacant Robbinsdale city council seat. Greenberg won with 60% of the vote. Both also appeared on the ballot for a primary election. I explained that race for Robbinsdale's Ward 2 and what's next. After council member Sheila Webb resigned last fall, Robbinsdale City Council was left with an open seat. Right now, Robbinsdale City Charter requires a special election to be held if the rest of the unexpired term is longer than 8 months. But this time around, it made for an interesting ballot.
The city manager, in his years of government, leading up to this, he said it was the first time that he had seen this exact situation.
That's because David Durkers and Jason Greenberg were running in both the special and primary election for Ward 2.
A lot of people asking questions about the light rail project, which makes a lot of sense. It's a big thing that's happening.
Greenberg and Durkers' names were under two categories on the ballot. Both said that made campaigning interesting.
It did complicate it. Made for some funny conversations trying to explain everything to people.
Ward 2 is going to be on the ballot twice, which just always was confusing to people.
Greenberg won both the special election and primary. That means he will be interim council member.
I want to make sure that people feel like their voice is being represented now, as well as into the new term that'll start in 2025.
Durkers got second and will advance alongside Greenberg to the general election.
I was running for Robbinsdale, and I am running for Robbinsdale still.
In November, the two will face off for the last time this election cycle. The Robbinsdale City Council is looking to change the charter and allow the council to appoint members to vacant seats in the future. The council would have to unanimously support that amendment for it to happen. Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center also had primaries to trim the field of candidates for open council seats. Tashidi Wako and Shell Page were the top vote getters, receiving 33% and 23% of the vote, respectively. Both are bidding to represent the city's central district and now move on to the general election. In Brooklyn Center, a field of 6 candidates was trimmed to 4 for 2 open seats. The top vote getters were Chris Lawrence Anderson, the lone incumbent, as well as Gretchen Enger, Lori Ann Moore, and Andrew Johnson. Now to a race that's captured attention across the Twin Cities, the Democratic primary race in the 5th Congressional District between Ilhan Omar and Don Samuels. The race is a rematch of the 2022 contest that saw Omar narrowly defeat Samuels. This time around, it was a more decisive victory. Omar won by more than 13 percentage points, a margin of roughly 16,000 votes. CCX News caught up with Omar this week in Minneapolis. Her district, which leans heavily Democratic, also includes Brooklyn Center, New Hope, Golden Valley, Robbinsdale, and Crystal. Omar held a significant spending advantage in her race against Samuels, spending more than $6 million leading up to the primary, almost $5 million more than her opponent. Omar will face Republican Dalia Al-Akidi, who, like Omar, is Muslim and a refugee, but offers very differing viewpoints on issues. A Democratic primary involving a Minnesota House seat also garnered attention and ended in a very close vote. Huldah Hiltzy edged Winfred Russell by a mere 50 votes in the Democratic primary for House District 38A. That district includes Brooklyn Park and Osseo. Hiltzy will go on to face Republican Brad Olson in the general election. Olson easily won his primary race. As Kevin Miller reports, the House 38A race is a contest that could make history.
For me to be running right now is the audacity of hope that Obama talks about.
Sitting in her Brooklyn Park living room with her family, Huldah Hiltzy couldn't help but think about what it took to get here.
My family and I migrated here from Kenya, and we fought the immigration system for 11 years.
Years ago, she was nearly deported. Now she's a candidate for the Minnesota House of Representatives. She could be the first Kenyan American in the state house.
Now to be sitting here on the verge of making history is definitely a testament of what the American dream looks like.
After celebrating her narrow victory on election night, she's ready to get back on the campaign trail.
Now that we're on the other side, obviously it's a huge sign of relief, but then there's work to do.
Meanwhile, Republican Brad Olson scored a decisive win on Tuesday. It's a feat he attributes to his supporters.
The team that we've put together, we've got some pretty talented people and energetic, enthusiastic, and so they really rose to the occasion and got the word out.
He's a software developer and a 29-year Brooklyn Park resident. He's concerned about the direction the country is headed.
The violent crimes, just the increase in taxation and those types of things that government is having too much of a control over our lives.
For a Republican to take the DFL stronghold would be a historic shift. Olson says he wants to drive more local Republicans to the polls.
I just sense that someone needed to be there to give someone a reason to go and vote and exercise their right, constitutional right to do that.
In Brooklyn Park, Kevin Miller, CCX News.
The Osseo City Council voted to hire a new police officer while the city swore in another. Police Officer Madeline Zitzelsberger was sworn in this week. She's been on the police department for a year and just finished her probation period. She will fill the role of Crime Prevention Coordinator, which helps plan events like Cone with a Cop and Night to Unite. The council also approved hiring Christopher Pertsensky as a new officer. MnDOT wants your feedback on the future of intersections along Highway 252. The State Transportation Department is hosting 2 community meetings. One of them is Thursday, starting at 5 p.m. at Discover Church in Brooklyn Park. Some of the intersections discussed are among the most crash-prone in the state. MnDOT wants feedback on whether to have 252 above or below the local roads as it designs a highway free of traffic signals. The input will help shape the future of that area in both Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center.
Maple Grove has had one of the top area boys soccer programs in recent years, reaching the state tournament 5 times in the past decade. A big reason why the Crimson have been so successful is because they waste no time in the preseason. Chaz Moots has more.
Day one of high school fall sports is always a big deal.
You can ask anyone. I've been waiting for this day for months. Ever since club season ended, the only thing I can think about is, getting out here with the guys, and because it's a completely different environment. I think the excitement level is the highest that it possibly could be.
For Maple Grove boys soccer, day one is the start of a week and a half of preseason.
Be strong.
And an important stretch before games begin on the pitch.
We got this, boys. Keep going.
Always working, getting better, competing. I think that's just why we're a good program. I think we just enable that in everyone's mind right away, especially during this preseason tryout.
Maple Grove has won the Section 5 3A title the past 2 seasons and were state runner-ups in Class 3A last fall. That success has brought in 120 players for tryouts on day one.
Kids want to show up. Kids are excited every day to come to tryouts. I've had kids texting me for months now asking about, what they think the season's going to be like and, what are the dates because they want to mark it on their calendar.
Good. Finishing 1 game short of the Crimson's first ever state championship last year motivates Maple Grove this year.
Well, we were this close. And the senior class took us that far, and all we got to do is just take it home this year.
For the guys filling in shoes, it's definitely something to keep a standard on and always trying to strive for being better than last year.
In Maple Grove, Chaz Moots, CCX Sports.
The Cooper football team is coming off a 7-3 season in 2023. In the first of our prep football training camp reports previewing local teams, Jay Wilcox pays a visit to the Hawks, who have high expectations for this fall.
As practices begin for the 2024 campaign, it's fair to say the Cooper guys are fired up about the season.
Feels great. We're looking good. The teammate, we're all ready, locked in. The energy has been great.
We're looking good. Everybody bringing energy every day. We got a couple new players filling key spots, so I think we're looking good.
We got some returners that, they made a mission to make their senior season their best season here. So, it's kind of transferred over to the first 2 days, and there's been excitement around our program.
With a lot of returners, some who are in their 3rd or even 4th varsity season, it's a year that Cooper's been aiming toward. The defense especially has a lot of returning pieces, but both sides of the ball have things to be optimistic about.
Our defense is honestly amazing. The way we stop any runs, the way we can break up any passes, honestly, I don't think a team out there can mess with Cooper. But
I'll probably say my wide receiver core. our receivers and linebackers.
The Hawks are led by Gopher recruit Emmanuel Carmo, who's on the short list of top players in Minnesota. He's a linebacker who will also be a force on offense as a receiver. Tony Colley has also already had a great career and looks to shine as a senior. Linebacker and running back Colley is relentless. Other top returners include wide receiver defensive backs Daylon Gurley and Samaj Young, and big offensive tackle Jeremiah Hoskins. There's a competition to replace last year's starter Cameron Fox at quarterback.
We have two guys right now competing for the starting position. We're confident in both of them. They're talented, they're smart, and they've got a good grasp of our offense. So, it's going to be a great battle to see who comes out number one.
Big picture, the Hawks are eyeing a return to state, a spot they last reached in 2021. But going 1-0 each week is the short-term goal for this talented group. Jay Wilcox, CCX Sports.
Cooper opens the season Friday, August 30th at 3 p.m. at Park Center, and a game you'll be able to see live here on CCX Sports. Find more prep sports games and highlights at ccxmedia.org and follow us on social media.